Okay. Well, I'm going to call, as the chair, I'm going to call the October meeting of a community sustainability committee together. We hopefully will achieve quorum and be able to move some of the business items off, including approval of the minutes and approval of the attendance, the virtual attendance policy, and then take up an item or two of the old business while still setting the stage for 2023. But we are honored to have Councilman Kevin Mundy here today, and I know Rajesh had invited him, so I want to make sure that given your time limitations that we're able to hear from you. I don't know your issues of concern, but I think we're interested in hearing.
Well, thank you. And honestly, I don't have that much to say. I really wanted to listen more to what all you all have to say, but talk about how the council really needs your help. I don't think we have anyone on council who really has taken up sustainability and reducing carbon footprint as their cause. And I think part of that reason is because a lot of us have causes already that we're working very diligently on. But I think moreover, it's because nobody knows enough about it to, to intelligently fight for it. So I'm going to try to fill that role. I'm going to try to make sure that important things come to council. I think there's a general consensus that we need to do something, but we don't know on our own what that is to do. So I think we need recommendations coming from you all. One of the things I do want to implement is to look at, what did we agree to by 2050 to reduce, was it?
It was 100% clean renewable energy by 2050. There was an interim goal of 50% by 2030, same clean renewable energy.
What I would like for us to start doing is looking at what that reduction has to be per quarter between now and 2030 to make that goal, and have staff report quarterly where we are against that goal, because if you don't measure it, it won't get done. So I think we need something to really compel us as an organization, us as a elected board to get this done. The other problem, and I'll say problem just because we need to figure out how to get over this hurdle. And Helen, your work colleagues better than I do. I don't know how much, what would we call it, institutional knowledge about sustainability we have. So when we're asking staff to measure this and tell us where we are, it's not the same as just looking at your finances and you've got a clear number there. I believe that staff is going to need a bit of a hand in getting to the point that they know how to measure and what to measure. What are your thoughts on that, Helen?
So we already do provide an annual update in our sustainability report about where we are as an organization in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. The last couple of years since we have set this resolution, I have noted in there with a graphic representation about our progress towards those goals. I will say, to your point about the quarterly reporting, honestly, the data doesn't change fast enough in a quarterly, set time frame for that to maybe be the best way to disseminate that information. Okay. But based on the work that our office is able to do with the energy manager, he is able to, and he does this already, like I said, on a yearly basis, gather the data from Duke Energy directly, from Piedmont Natural Gas directly, and from our fleet division directly. So if there is any other way that you would like us to break down that data or something like that, that might be some useful feedback, since, like I said, we have that sort of standard annual organized reporting already, but again, we're open to suggestions for how there might be better ways for you all to receive that. But yeah, that's sort of our process right now, and we are doing what we can to make sure that there is at least some reporting on that.
Okay, so maybe you and I can talk offline about, I think once a year, it doesn't give us time to react. Once a quarter may be too much. Maybe we're looking at biannually, but I also need to find out, is that going to put too much of a strain on existing staff? Do we need to look at a position or a part-time position that could be responsible for reporting? But that's stuff that I think we would need to talk about offline, and I don't want to take your time in here. But what I will ask you all to do, and Rajesh has done this, is continue to feed us information. I know that Robert Clark, who chairs the Finance Committee, has said, bring me a proposal and I'll consider it. I'll see if I'm going to fund it. So I think he's being truthful there. He doesn't know what to suggest and what to implement. So if you all come with a proposal that is well thought out, that has the numbers behind it, I think he's going to consider it, especially if you can show that there's a payback. You know, it may cost us more for 2 or 3 years, but by year 5, we would have recouped that and we would start saving money. Those are the numbers that I think we, as fiduciary agents, need to see to make sure that if we're going to up the budget, that it's going to have a payback period. And again, none of us have really the ability to do that. We call on staff to do that. So we just need to be realistic about how much we can get done. Okay, and that's really all I had to say. I'm here to help you, but we need your help. We need your expertise. You guys have dug into this because you're passionate about it, and you have become or are becoming experts. And that's the whole reason we put these citizen committees together.
Well, I appreciate that, Councilman. I think actually in terms of old business, since this was raised last time, and I know there's been some email chatter with members and others about how and when to provide information to city council people and committees, and kind of timing and the staging of that. Helen, you want to go through the flow chart that you provided? And this might be at least a grounding. Councilman can respond of where you think we're missing something, or what you might want to emphasize.
Sure. Can you all see my screen?
I cannot. Yes, now I can.
Okay, great. So this is the flow chart that I put together and sent out to all of our committee members ahead of time. That really focuses on the internal deadlines that we have in terms of the city council, both committee meetings and full meetings of the city council. What this shows you is, we're finding out the information in real time along with the public. And this is the process we go through every month. I chose the month of October for example dates, just because November and December are slightly different based on holiday scheduling. And so this is a really good example for what we're looking at every month. And so every single department turns in the items that they want to bring to city council on the last Wednesday of every month by 5 p.m. All of those items are considered for different agendas, consent and general agendas of the 4 city council committee meetings, which I've listed there. The agenda is released on the Friday before the meetings for all of the committee meetings. The meetings are then held on the second Monday and Tuesday of every month. And then any items approved in these meetings go on to the city council meeting, the full city council meeting, the next Monday after that. That is the standard process every month, like I said. And I've also included when agendas are released for your all's information, but that's when we get them as well. And so this is just some information. Now, I know that Alan mentioned that, this was to help shed light on maybe some ways that, since it did come up also from some of our committee members, how do you get in on items in terms of comments? My recommendation is that you all work within your subcommittees. So for instance, Rajesh, I know that what you commented on, for instance, in the last month was the EV fleet issues. So because you're luckily on the transportation subcommittee of this committee, I think the most effective way to ensure that your voice is heard, that your recommendations are heard, is that you and perhaps you know, after it's brought to the committee as a whole, this committee as a whole, you bring forward very specific recommendations to city council to get it in front of them, get some of the discussion going, and make sure that there is a spotlight on your specific recommendations. The only recommendations that have come out of that subcommittee have not been brought to city council in any form. There were some things mentioned in the annual report that was presented last year in September of 2021, but there was nothing specific included in terms of action items. And the annual report is not ever an item that is voted on. It is just brought for information. And so a lot of times it's just more effective to ensure that your recommendations are being considered if that is in a resolution format. And that resolution, again, if it comes from your transportation subcommittee, can come to the full sustainability committee for approval by everybody and then sent to city council following these deadlines in this schedule. So, you know, it's very hard and could be a little unnecessary to comment on everything that goes to city council. And so this is just a really, I think, standardized way to follow sort of these steps that are already in place, and following, you know, the format of how we have our meetings for you to make sure the voice is heard, and that, you know, you're able to make comments that you want to make about whatever topic it is you want to make.
Okay, I have a question actually. So when we passed the resolution 2 years ago, there was a line item 50% of building and fleet carbon reduction or emission reduction by 2030.
Sure.
So that resolution basically said that anything.
So what, yeah, and you're right. And what I'm saying though, is that something more specific than that needs to come from your committee. Say where to start, what departments, what vehicles even, because the other issue was that the comments made at the last meeting last week were about the pursuit vehicles, which best practice is not to start with emergency vehicles or pursuit vehicles.
Yeah, Helen, I think we're a little off topic here, so if we can.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to
stay on the process.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a real world
something
example.
You need to finish with.
Yeah, I wanted to just finish my thought. Sorry. So we have a resolution and a target, but my question right now is if another purchase of something comes up in the city council, the city staff is probably going to be aware of what comes up. It could be purchase of vehicles, it could be renovation of a building, it could be, you know, something else. So at that point, when we are going to the finance committee to expend some capital, that's when we should be probably looking at, are we taking all the steps we can towards the target that we already passed a resolution on?
Yes.
And that is where I'm kind of concerned that we miss things that are going by so fast.
My question, or maybe a point of clarification to that is, when you say staff is aware, are you what staff? So I guess also from our standpoint as staff, if something is coming from fleet or property and facilities management that does have to do with LEDs or fleet or vehicle purchases, those staff are aware, right? But I'm not aware of every single thing going to council that maybe relates to that resolution or not. So I don't know if that's what you meant, but if that helps too, like, that's what I meant when staff doesn't see or know what else is being submitted. That's what I meant, is like, I don't necessarily see everything until the agenda is released about who submitted what and whether or not it could have related to the resolution. That's what I think I meant by the agenda deadline section.
I understand. So what I think the sustainability department, and we need to discuss among ourselves to kind of come up with a common voice here, is we'd like to propose that, sorry, am I still on?
Yes.
Okay, my screen blanked out. That we do include the sustainability department to be, the overarching kind of a gatekeeper of everything the city would be doing in the next 10 years, because those are our little opportunities to get to the target. Otherwise, we'll never get to the target that we want to get to.
Yeah.
Because those are the, the quick passing. And this is the collective interdepartmental structure, and it might be a policy thing that needs to come from higher ups, from the city manager down. And I don't know what that structure would be,
Yeah.
but we got to catch it at a very high level.
That's
Yeah.
where I think I can be your advocate. I think I can sit down with Lee. We have a one-on-one meeting every 2 weeks, and he tells me what he thinks I need to hear. I tell him what he thinks I think he needs to hear. And I think you're right. I mean, anytime we are looking at hiring a vendor, we look at how they stack up with regards to WMDE. I think we need to start making decisions, and some of them won't have any impact one way or the other. But if it could have an impact, let's look at that decision and measure it. And it should be part of the point process, not the entire decision, but let's add that into the things that we are measuring and find out if there is an opportunity. And I think that you all were all blindsided by the 45 cars that are fuel burning, as were we. Typically I only know 3 days ahead of time what's coming, so we need to figure out for Helen's benefit and for you all as the team, how do we make sure that those communication dots are connected? Because I just think it's only fair that you all are included in these decisions.
Yeah, if I could bring us back to, in the ideal, how some of this has to work and how it's so tied into the vacancy issue. So right now we do not have functioning subcommittees for lack of people. And ideally, if this committee is meeting every other month, the subcommittees are meeting on kind of the alternate month, and then doing kind of the nitty-gritty work of developing recommendations to the full committee. Helen, remind us, could, for example, just in the interest of time or urgency, the committee approve a recommendation from the subcommittee by email?
It's really not preferred, and that I think is more, I think the past times we've done that have been somewhat unique situations where we just haven't had quorum in some of the previous meetings where we were supposed to have that opportunity. So it's definitely still preferred to have full meetings of the council and do it then. That's advice from our attorney's office. So, I know that it can be frustrating, but
I think from my seat, that just doesn't provide the opportunity to respond in a timely manner. And so if that's something where, the city legal counsel needs to speak with us as a whole, or I'm happy to hear from him or her, because that's a real problem. And just the structure of how to be responsive.
Yeah, can I ask again, just sort of a clarifying question? Mm-hmm. You say responsive. Mm-hmm. Is that in terms of something like what we saw this month, where something comes to light and you want to be able to respond?
I think even following the flow chart as you have it on the screen, if the subcommittees were just meeting on the alternate month, say, November, there may be too much of a lag to have a committee meeting in December to then forward something to the city council. It just may not match kind of the decision-making trail.
Sure. Okay.
Because you may have a 6-week gap, which just doesn't fit how the decisions are being made or when things are being considered. Yeah. So that's what I mean about timeliness and responsiveness. So which brings us to, and I think this is worth a council member hearing. It appears, and this is, I'm relatively new to this, so I'm meeting number 2 since I got appointed. We have had 3 vacancies and multiple vacancies it seems throughout much of the life of this committee, even though at least I am aware, people do submit applications and they're not acted upon. And so right now we are missing 3 members. So we have a very difficult time making quorum. More importantly, we can't populate subcommittees to actually get down to, have active working groups and then, have the committee act as a whole rather than, item by item. So I don't have a full understanding of the holdups or why things don't move expeditiously when applications are submitted. I know there's at least 2 Wake faculty who have submitted, perhaps 3 in the last 4 or 5 weeks, and one has heard back briefly with no sense of any further action. The other 2 have not. So we're kind of in this state of paralysis without full membership, even though we know there are people who are certainly interested and have a whole skill set that would really benefit the committee. So that's my perspective. I don't know for people who've been on longer, if you have other observations that might be helpful for the council.
That seems to be fairly widespread. Don't you think, Helen, that other committees are having the same problem?
Yeah, and we've talked briefly about that. It's just kind of consistent across the city. And we do what we can to inquire about filling those vacancies. But yes, you're right, Councilmember Mundy, it is across the board.
And it all goes through the mayor's office. Isn't that right, Helen? Okay. I will have a follow-up discussion on that because that's bothered me as well. We make it very hard for people to try to join a committee. And then even once we get their name, sometimes we don't take action. So that's a system that I think is broken. So I will add that to my list to talk to Lee, and I'll talk to the mayor about it. But one staff person was supposed to be concentrating on that. And I haven't seen a lot of change since that person came before.
I appreciate you taking a look for us because, yeah, we're going to be having the same discussions if we're always under-resourced in terms of there's people to populate the committees and really dig in. I mean, I could set all sorts of agendas for the work groups and appoint chairs of the work groups and the process, and I could do all that, but lacking, the full membership, it's just not possible. So.
This would be a question for legal, but could you combine 2 committees so that you've got enough people to go around and get a quorum? It's a workaround, not an ideal workaround, but it may allow you to continue to move forward and do work. And I don't know what flexibility you have and how the committees are structured. I know everything has to be blessed by legal.
Yeah, I don't have any background in that at all. So that's a new one for me.
I had one more question actually, and this is again how we make it work faster and easier. So just like what happened, and that's just an example about the purchase of the cars. So the day we found out was 3 days before it went to the full council vote. And the only opportunity that we could have in giving our recommendation or voicing our opinion was after the voting happened. The council votes and the vote passed, or they had an action, and then we get to speak. So what we say in that kind of format makes no difference for the vote. And I'm just trying to figure out how can we come up earlier on, and at what time. I know Helen just said that we should pass a resolution, but that resolution may or may not cover what's coming down the pike tomorrow. And I know there's a whole bunch of money coming down from the Inflation Reduction Act, the infrastructure bill, the $300 million that Governor Cooper has, and the VW settlement monies. There's so much money that is coming that I want us as in the city, to be there and jump on it when the money comes, because that's exactly what we want to do. Lay the infrastructure in place so that in the future, we won't have any other council member feeling like we don't have all the ducks in a row before we do something else. And voicing our opinion after the vote is kind of too late, right? So I'm trying to figure out where can I jump in to help this process?
I'll be happy to comment, Councilmember Mundy, if you want to comment on the public meeting comment period. I don't have any comments for that, but in terms of, you're not sure if it'll cover, whatever is coming down the pipeline. I do think that the topics that our subcommittees cover are wide ranging enough that if you all identify your priorities as the subcommittee, and then the recommendations and specific action items that go with those, I think that will be very effective. Will it cover everything? Most likely not, but there are also many other committees within the city that cover other topics as well that could be prioritized. Again, Urban Food Policy Council comes to mind. They're obviously very specifically working around the topic of food. So, things like that can be considered, but that's, again, still my biggest recommendation. In terms of all the federal funding, we actually already do have awards from the VW Settlement Fund. We are expected to get the EECBG again this year, and we've already made sort of some plans for how we would like to spend that. We are actively pursuing and keeping an eye on what is available for us in the Inflation Reduction Act, because a lot of that is still very new and none of that has really been decided yet. So I do just want to assure you that we are doing what we can to make sure that we will be able to take advantage of the opportunities that best suit what we're looking to do. And I am working with other departments to ensure that we are prepared.
I think that would be a perfect example. I don't know, what subcommittees were at any point active, but this whole issue around funding and funding availability, and a subcommittee being able to either interact with city staff or make recommendations to the committee as a whole, that this flags some of these that, A, B, and C are particularly important for these reasons, and communicate that. That's how this structure should work. And there should be, a 3-person or 4-person, maybe that's the one that has the most populated of the subcommittees, regarding, the urgency of some of these funding opportunities, many of which, given what I do, Helen is correct. Yeah, so much of this money is kind of undesignated in some ways, and there's a tremendous amount of latitude on the county or the city level for how to move some of it into action, and that fits with the purpose of a committee like this, is to make recommendations on how to put some of that money into action. For lack of, as the councilman said, for lack of any other input and lack of, a whole storehouse of knowledge, things just kind of, happen almost by default, rather than intentionally. So, want to welcome, I see we have a new person who has joined us.
Yes.
Lee Stackhouse, greetings. I don't know if you're going to go on camera, but we welcome that.
Thank you. I'm driving, so.
Oh, well.
Be careful, please.
Yes, I was going to say, please.
Absolutely.
Do whatever you need to do.
Chairman Smart, you're our chairman,
Yes,
right?
sir. Yes.
If I could just say a couple of quick things. I've noted some things in the chat that you guys might want to consider, think about, and I will send that in a second when I sign off.
Very good.
But I will tell you, Rajesh, that the problem that you have of speaking to an issue after it's been voted on has been brought up several times before. I understand that that's the way the highest powers like it done. So I honestly think that may be driven a little more towards the general public. So we need to figure out a way for you all to get in, and it may be more closely following what comes out of committee, because it has to go through committee before it goes to full council. So maybe we can help you figure out how to access those reports from the committee, individual committees. Okay. I'm going to run. Thank you all for letting me kind of horn in on your meeting. I do want to be your cheerleader, but I need your help to help you. So have a good rest of the meeting, and just check out the chat here as I'm heading out to dinner. Okay. Thank you,
Thank you,
guys.
council member.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
And thank you all for bearing with what I know is a time very dry process kinds of things, but I think it's actually some critical points of leverage here that we need to figure out before, or else we're just kind of talking in the wind. So he seemed to offer some opportunities there, as well as a bit of intervention that might be helpful. So I appreciate all that, Rajesh, for bringing him or inviting him.
Yeah, it was interesting that I got a call and several emails from people saying, what was your input? And I was caught off guard. And frankly, I was very embarrassed that I had no idea what was going on. And so then the digging started, and and then of course the newspaper calls to see if I had a comment, and one thing leads to another. And then the two council members say, I want you to show up and say something. So, this whole thing happened within 48 hours.
48 hours, yeah. I know, I'm aware.
And it was very rushed and almost panic inducing. So I'm trying to figure out where and how we can, and we do have the some of us have technical skills, and I'm sure, James, you can bring a lot of transportation related technical skills, and I would love to sit and talk with you about what we can do to get to our target that we have promised. And just yesterday, the UN report came that pretty much all the governments across the world are not achieving their targets, and it's a lot of talk and no action. And this is global. I mean, not our city related, but it's everywhere. So we gotta, our mission is almost greater than all these technicalities and legal issues. And that's where my stress comes from, that, we have this one opportunity and we got to do the best we can. That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We had an agenda item, which this is really my interest, probably from naivete or ignorance, but when Helen had sent out the city council strategic plan, and then I was leafing through it, and there were clearly some items there that were directly sustainability connected. I mean, however you want to interpret, even though they may not be under a sustainability header, but I think it would be worthwhile. Helen, are you able to project some of that?
Yeah, let me track it down on the website first, and pull up. Do you want me to pull up the specific sustainability ones or anything in particular?
Yeah, whatever, just to give us a flavor of it. I think, if in fact, I'm trying to create some continuity here. If in fact our major role is to advise city council, and that's kind of my understanding, and they, in theory, their eyes of the prize should be these strategic elements that they have approved and adopted. We should be using the fact that they have adopted those as their plan as an opportunity to feel free to speak to some of those and be just aware of them in kind of real time, because I think it's easy to get distracted by 50 or 100 different issues. But I don't know if anyone had taken a look at what Helen had sent out. I thought it was really interesting. I had just never seen any of these things.
Yes.
For example, priority 10.
Can you see the screen?
Yep.
Do you want me to make it bigger?
Yeah, I think I'd make it slightly bigger. I think like 25% or something would be great.
Okay, let me do that.
I know for our member who is driving, this is not perfect, but we'll try to keep context. Yeah, so there are, at least from when I went through this, there are items that are clearly would be under the purview of, you can call it sustainability. That would be this one, this priority 10. There are others that are a little more interpretive. But I think at some point, if we were fully populated, this might actually frame some of the priorities for the committee, or at least the kinds of things that people would you know, kind of volunteer to kind of keep an eye on. So we're kind of at least feeling that these are, that we're fulfilling our obligation to actually keep an eye on the city council's activities for what they committed to do. It's a public adopted commitment, and some of these are very critical, whether it be, you know, the business side or, you know, whatever. I'm at a loss to just think of a few off the top of my head. But anyway, I don't know if people have any input into any of this or how we might treat these city council strategy items. You know, is it to just, you know, their business, or how do you see this connecting with the work of the committee if we were fully populated?
And if I may, so the strategic plan too is created based on input directly from departments and department heads. So these are goals that were presented based on our input as department heads to city council, and then they approved what we submitted to them. So a lot of times what you see here is already a short-term goal, meaning, you know, I think this is like a 4-year strategic plan. So if it's in here, it means in the next 4 years, this is something we would like to accomplish. Specifically, I am already working on 10.7, 10.1, 10.2, and 10.3. These are things that are either ongoing or that are part of my work plan. So, you know, I imagine that's the same for some other priorities in here for other departments, but that's also just some more background.
So this, go ahead, Leah.
What is 10.3 recycling alternatives analysis?
That is us bringing recycling in-house, recycling curbside collection in-house. So we are providing the alternative to the contractor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, to me, we could definitely use these as a starting point, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like none of these to me are like super, I don't know, like, I don't know. I think it's a bigger, there's more to do. There's, you know, there's nothing about like tree canopy here, which is something we've talked about a lot, you know.
In this one.
Right.
So there is more of this plan.
I think,
okay.
Yeah, I think it's, yeah, it would be, and I don't know if it'd be possible, Helen, to just,
Here.
you know, without being exhaustive or exhausting, pull together, just cut and paste the ones that you feel would be sustainability oriented that are in the plan and just put them in one document.
Sure, and I will reiterate, I know when we spoke earlier, I mentioned this, but because these items are brought by specific departments with the intention of them completing it, I am hesitant to, you know, cross department lines and step on people's toes if there's already a plan in place. I am happy to do some digging to find out if people would be open to the assistance of the committee. I'm happy to do that. But yes.
I think the importance for the committee at this stage is less about providing comment on the specific items and more about this is kind of the city's official position on the work to be done going ahead. And I don't think any of this is widely known publicly. This is the first time I'd ever seen this document. And I think it's you know, if this is the day-to-day work of city departments around sustainability in many ways, you know, threaded through different departments, I think that's something we need to be aware of. Understanding that, many of these are part of individuals, director level people, work plans, and you're all working hard on this.
And I'll add to, I think we have talked about in this committee in the past that the city's comprehensive plan is about to kick off that process. for the next long-term one. And so this committee and many other stakeholders in the public will be involved in that. But from what I understand, and this may have changed, but the last time I spoke with our planning department who leads that effort, they were considering including sustainability and equity concerns in each of the different aspects of that plan. So, and that one too, because it has more public input, is also geared a little bit more towards, I think, some of the things you all might be looking for in this that you feel are missing. Because again, this is very internal by nature. And so that could, I would, it may be good for subcommittees to also meet ahead of the input process for that comprehensive plan, because that's a good way, that'll be a good way that committees are guaranteed input into that plan. So just wanted to put that out there as well.
And what is the estimated timeline as that plays out? When does that start? And
They are very early in that. And you all, again, all city boards and commissions are already included in this stakeholder process. So you all will be contacted when it is time for that input. I just know that they are just starting. So I unfortunately, I know that it takes quite a while to put together such a comprehensive plan. So I don't know very much more than that.
Okay, well, I think that needs to be kind of a standing item then. That seems like an important opportunity for input that maybe is unique, because I think you only do those once every 3 to 5 years, maybe. Something.
10, maybe.
10, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know it's a war horse kind of thing that takes 12 to 18 months maybe or more to put together.
Yes.
So that seems particularly important for all these committees and all citizen input, but particularly this might be the first time this committee could actually have an active role in shaping very public policy of what the city has committed to. So I think that's important. So thank you for that. But yeah, I'll recommend that be a standing item. The only other thing I wanted to bring up, and then, love to hear from the members of just what's on your mind as we move towards the end, is Christy Robinson reached out to me. I'm sorry she's not here today because that would have been helpful. I think indicating just as kind of a parent representative, she had met with the superintendent of schools and their sustainability coordinator. I forget what the title is, but essentially whoever fulfills that role or has those responsibilities. And she was suggesting, oh, this is a critical relationship, this committee should have. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's been discussed previously, but I'd be curious if anyone has any immediate kind of response to what interaction with the school district and their sustainability work is important to you all, or has been discussed in the past.
So the only comment I have is I attended a meeting because I was invited by the school board members. Again, because this is what I do for a living anyway, green buildings and all that. And PEA was represented there, Piedmont Environmental Alliance, and their input was from just education component, environmental education. And a few of the things that we could do together is we have Bee City USA designation. And I know in the past we've talked about taking the education aspect of Bee City USA, pollinators, all that, and taking it to the school district, maybe installing some, or just talking about it, or maybe having some installations of some local flora, fauna, and all that. So that's one item. Second item, just coming to my mind is we have talked about doing education component for composting. That could be a second one. So there are several items that we could coordinate with the school district, but they are also about to pass a resolution with sustainability as a focus going forward. Not only sustainability for operations, but also education. And I think the county is also interested in collaborating now. So things are coming together, things are moving faster. So more collaboration, the better. That would be my input.
I think just to not to say that we shouldn't do that, but as someone who works at a public school, I would say that I mean, the district will do what it wants to do, and that's good. But I would like to see, I don't know, pressure applied, I guess, to corporate bodies in Winston-Salem and the hospitals and Wake Forest, or at least some, if there's going to be initiatives in schools, if schools can do it, if the public school system can do composting, I think Wake Forest should tell us what they're doing, and the same with major, corporate places.
Yeah, there actually is a whole group of major healthcare systems nationally who are part of a kind of a cohort working pretty deeply on sustainability issues, and our local hospitals have not been particularly active in those circles. I think that's fair to say. And yeah, as you might have ideas, what are the connections, or I certainly have connections at both places, but I don't know the history of how they've been approached in the past, or what reluctance there's been, or I don't want to step into anything that's clearly has a whole history to it without knowing more. But I'm completely with you, Leah. I think the healthcare systems are the two largest employers in the region. They will continue to be that. Their opportunities for digging in deeply to these issues is profound. I mean, it's everything from building, as we see an enormous new tower on the Novant campus going up, to recycling, use of food, on and on and on. Use of different types of materials and just patient care and how they dispose of those, all of that. So I think that's a really serious issue, and one, yeah, if we were, we had some steam here, I would hope perhaps with some city council support, we could have a pretty high level discussion with them about this.
And a couple items come to mind. One is just yesterday, Lancet, the medical journal, they had a very strong white paper about climate change and the deaths and healthcare issues it's causing worldwide. So they are, all these hundreds of doctors are coming together to say that this is very important for them. Locally, a few doctors have come to kind of me as friends saying, what are you doing? Can you help us? Can you push us? Again, my bandwidth is limited, but just imagine Mayor Joins going and saying to the CEO of these hospital systems that, hey, we need you to take action, and that would really be effective. Of course, we can't tell the mayor what to do, but those kind of action at a very high level and collaborative efforts would be really, really useful. So things are happening, but again, it has to be accelerated. And if we can, city consumption or carbon footprint is only 2% of what we in our county or in our city are generating. So yes, Leah is right. It's the schools, it's the hospitals, it's everybody. And yeah, any ideas are welcome about how to get this. And PEA is doing a good job of doing those roundtable discussions every 6 months. That is a start, and I can hear the excitement about this. So what's the next step? Don't know, but there's excitement.
I appreciate that. I'm conscious of time. I'm a good timekeeper when I run these things. I'd love to hear if Jordan or Mr. Mitchell, Lee Stackhouse driving, and we are joined by Larry Bell.
He's from our marketing team, so he's just.
Oh, I was going to say, when I don't believe I've met. Okay, that's great. Welcome. But yeah, if others or Leah, you have other thoughts in your mind, I'd love to hear them as trying to create some kind of path forward where we can start moving to action mode here.
Well, as an outsider, I appreciate you letting me sit in on the meeting. My take on things is that having a council member sit in on the meeting is a great start, because I think that's going to be the most effective way to get the sustainability committee involved in some of these other action items that have been discussed. You know, it's going to have to come from the top and then work its way down. So, you know, I think that that's a really good start. And yeah, so I think there's some exciting opportunities coming up.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And if I may, just James reminded me of something that Rajesh and Councilmember Mundy both mentioned was, you know, getting sustainability input on. I know you didn't say every decision, but I felt like that. I just want to say that I do think policy. I think you said policy might need to be the way. That would be the way, just because we would need people to be responsible for that themselves. We don't have the capacity within our department to have comments or be included in like a bunch of decisions that different departments are making. We just don't have that capacity. But I do think that other cities are considering, how do you get in on that? And I think like internal policy is the way that is being done. I think there was also, it related to one of the strategic plan items in priority 10. So again, just I want to reiterate, feel free to go back and look through that. I do think it related to one of them.
Yeah, for those of you who were not at the last meeting, I wanted to kind of restate what I think could be an important input into this, and Helen's comments reminded me. I think it would be really valuable to have a presenter or speaker, or at least someone available for Q&A from communities that are further ahead on this journey in terms of how the process, and not knowing this field, I think Helen indicated last time you were in various listservs and work groups and conversations with people from various other communities and cities that maybe have some of this process, both the input side as well as issue prioritization and, you know, leverage with healthcare systems, any of those things that we could learn from and have for at least the full committee meetings, of which there would be, I guess, 6 in 2023, have someone available for 10 or 15 minutes of the meeting to really school us in some of what's happening in some other communities that we can look to or learn from.
And I can volunteer to do that on behalf of other city entities. Like I said, and I don't know that I mentioned it specifically, but one of the items that I am working on from the strategic plan is a benchmarking report from sustainability offices in the state. I am very well connected to them and can speak probably enough in depth about what they're doing to you know, answer any questions or talk about examples. But I'm also happy to do that for other cities in the Southeast as well that I am well connected to. But yes, if there is anything, any examples or anybody you would like to come speak from a private sector or an NGO, absolutely just let me know and I'll be happy to try to set that up for you guys. But for the sake of simplicity, at least, I can speak to a lot of what our peer cities are doing already. So I may be of some assistance there if you just give me an idea of, you know, a specific thing that you might want me to bring more information on or something.
Well, let me follow up with you on that offline, because
Sure.
I have a sense of how we might make that routine and kind of build a body of knowledge. All right, we're at time. Anyone else? Comments, questions? As always, I'm really open to just getting some guidance on how to make all this valuable, both for the members as well as you know, for the community as at large. you know, the best way that I know just from experience is to, yeah, try to find the leverage points and get people active beyond the meetings, and you know, really identify where we can be influential and where and how. And that seems to be a bit of a, not a mystery at this point, but we don't have much experience, so we've got to find a path to at least test out.
And last reminder too, anybody on any subcommittee can reach out to their fellow subcommittee members to set up a meeting. It doesn't have to come from me or Alan. So I just want to plug that as a reminder. And then if you do that, please do be sure to invite me, since I am staff support to this committee and all the other subcommittees that come with it. So just last few plugs there.
Yeah, not to delay us, but I was not aware there were actually people who are assigned to various subcommittees for the committee as a whole. So
it's just been volunteer based, but I do
Okay.
have the list of those people.
okay, well,
with their-
let's talk about that offline too, because that we need to reverse or move ahead or something. But we do need our full complement of people, and I'm gonna reach out to Councilman Mundy, you know, in a couple of weeks, and just remind him about trying to move some of these appointments so we're full. So, all right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank
Good day.
you. Oh,
Thank you, friends.